This is a story about Elliot, a successful accountant. Elliot had a beautiful home, a loving spouse, and a nice-sized savings. Unfortunately, in 1982, he had a tumor removed from his orbitofrontal cortex, located right here just above the eye sockets. Incredibly, afterwards, Elliot he couldn't make snap decisions. Let me explain like this. If he was in front of his closet looking at a whole bunch of clothes, he would not be able to decide what shirt to wear. At a restaurant, looking at a menu, he couldn't decide what to order. When neurologists did some testing, they discovered his emotional part of the brain could not communicate with his rational part. For example, they would show him a bunch of horrific photographs that most people would recoil from. Elliot showed no emotion whatsoever. Images for Elliot no longer had a value of being good or being bad. Essentially, he became a robot, unable to love, hate, or even show desire. As a consequence, he lost his home, his spouse divorced him, and he lost all his savings. If it weren't for his loving parents who brought him in and took care of him, he'd be on the streets. Now, there's this thing called the effect heuristic. And the myth about it is, it goes something like this. We can calculate risk versus reward to maximize gains and minimize losses. The reality is, we're dependent on emotions to make value judgments about what's good or bad. We overestimate rewards, and we tend to stick with our first impression. Now, what is interesting is I got this from a book. In fact, it's way over here. It's by it's upside down. It's by David McRaney. It's called You Are Not So Smart. There you go. Maybe I'm not so smart. Each chapter is about a bias or a heuristic, and I'm familiar with a lot of these and different sources that kind of blend, and I've internalized them. But what's interesting is I read this book 8 years ago, and the only thing I remember from all these pages is, I believe it's 143, was the story about Elliot that took place. It just took one page. That's it. What this tells me is that stories can connect with us on an emotional level. We can empathize with characters and their situations, and these stories can be memorable more so than, say, statistics. The next time you're trying to persuade someone on a presentation or about something that you think your organization should do, try having a story to support your facts. It might turn out where you get a much more favorable support.